Welcome back to the SAOR Method. Today's guest is a man who truly went all in. After years working in the corporate world in Barcelona, Vinny Coffey made the decision to leave it all behind, move back to Cork, study strength and conditioning, and build his own business, now known as Phoenix Strength and Conditioning. He also doesn't just talk about discipline, he lives it. We're catching up with him just a couple of weeks after completing the Marathon de Sable, 250 plus kilometers across the Sahara Desert. In this episode, we talk about changing careers at 30, surviving the Sahara Desert, and what it takes to do that. Welcome, Vinny Coffey.
Vinny, welcome, man. A conversation I've been really looking forward to for quite a long time now. And thanks for joining me. And look, before we dive into an incredible 250 kilometers across the desert, plus the incredible business you're building, could you tell me, why are you in this industry? What's your why? What's your driving force behind Phoenix? And how are you sitting here today?
So Phoenix only came along recently. So up until that point, about 5 years ago, I basically made a change in career. I spent a good few years in audit and project management, living abroad in Barcelona. So I did commerce in college originally. And about 5 years ago, I decided to make the change just to get into something that I was a lot more interested in. I wasn't great at the old auditing, so I said, before I explode, I might as well make a move into something that I'm passionate about. We grew up playing every sport under the sun, so went back doing strength and conditioning. And last summer, Phoenix was born, and I wanted to make something that was my own, Phoenix Strength and Conditioning. So I wanted to really put my stamp on something. I was working previously with my brother and his wife, and they decided to they have full-time jobs as well, so they're doing their own thing. So I kind of wanted to put my own stamp on something and make something my own. So that's where Phoenix came about.
Amazing. And take us through corporate Vinny. Did he train? Was there always an underlying fitness element to you, or did that kind of pause while you're in a great city in Barcelona, so you had incredible weather? But was that always part of you? As you said, you did sports from a young age, so what did that look like?
So we were always a GA household, hurling, football, till I was probably 18. It was just like hurling, football, soccer, played a bit of golf, did a bit of running, but hurling and football were always the main ones. And then I suppose in my later teens, I stuck to the hurling and football mostly. Eventually just it ended up being Gaelic football. And when I moved to Spain, then I kind of wanted to do something new. Didn't know what it was really yet. And I actually don't know how I stumbled across it, but I came across trail running. Maybe it was a video or something. And one evening there on a Friday after work, I went out for a run in the trails in the mountains behind Barcelona. Well, they're not mountains, they're hills, but went out and I ran the legs off myself, and I came back and I was flattened out in the bed for about 2 hours. And I didn't enjoy it then, but the next morning I was like, geez, I actually enjoyed that. That was good, like good for the head. I wasn't loving work at the time, so maybe it was a bit of an escape, but I fell in love with trail running then. Spain is obviously a big place for trail running. Lots of dry weather, lots of mountains. So that was in probably late 2018, early 2019. And I just signed up for my first race then in late 2019 and kind of took off from there, and I started getting big into trail running then.
And take us through, like you're in this corporate world, you're sitting there at your desk Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, whatever it is. Was that something that you were like looking forward to doing after work, was getting out on the trails? Or because trail running is difficult. Like I've dabbled in the running. Okay, I find it extremely difficult. So like, how does that feel for you? Is it something that you're like burning to do every single day, while you're over there in Barcelona, or is it just like something that you use to challenge yourself in a different way?
I suppose at first it wasn't really more the challenge. It was more, it was a bit of an escape from work, to be honest. I find it very hard to sit at a desk all day, and it took me quite a while to figure that out. But it's not definitely something that's not suited to me. I can't sit 9 to 5. It's just not where I'm at. Like a couple hours in the morning, and I'm done for the day. So I like to be on my feet. I'm a doer. So I think that's kind of where trail running came about. I have a lot of energy I need to use, and like obviously the scenery around Barcelona. There's hundreds of kilometers of trails within touching distance of Barcelona. So just in the evening after work, get out for an hour and a half, go home, go about your routine, go back to work and not really enjoy it again. And then you'd be looking forward to getting out in the trails the next day and just kind of clearing the head. But after a while, then I kind of just started to notice, like, yeah, maybe I needed it, but I also wanted to do it. I enjoyed what it gave me. I enjoyed the fact that I could clear my head, and now I was actually more productive in work, albeit not really enjoying it. But like, it did improve my work, and then I really started getting into races and seeing what I could do if I kept training and kept going at it.
I think that's a great point, isn't it? That for a lot of people, I think fitness starts as somewhat of an escape, a therapy, actually, for lack of a better term. And then as you maybe get better at it, or maybe set yourself different challenges, you actually just learn to love it, right? And I feel like a lot of your members in your gym right now, they probably start there. And I think we all start there, it's an escapism, it's a form of, therapy. And then over time, done repetitively, you get a little bit better, you start to see little wins, and then you start to actually love it. But how the hell does that go from, it's an escape for me, to then 250 kilometers across the desert in Marathon des Sables? How does that come about? Because there's a big difference between I love doing this and it's my escape, and now I'm getting better at it, I'm doing a couple of races, to 250 kilometers, which is known as the hardest foot race on the world, right? Or one of them at least.
Yeah.
How does that come about? Take us through that.
Yeah. So as I said a while ago, when I first started, I kind of got into like watching a lot of YouTube videos and stuff about trail running, because I hadn't heard much about it. It was quite a new thing to me, and I'd mentioned it to someone. They were just kind of like, "Oh, you mean running?" I'm like, "Yeah, running, yeah, but on the trails and mountain runners and sky running." And there was like a whole load of things that I've never really heard about or explored. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole of finding races, and then I came across the Marathon des Sables, and a friend of mine actually in Barcelona mentioned it to me about doing it in and around COVID time. And he said, I think it was moved because of COVID, so it was moved to September. And he said, "Will we give it a crack?" And it was like April or something. I was like, I don't know, that sounds like a mental timeline. Plus, it's way harder than anything we've ever done. So we didn't do it, obviously, thank God. But I started seeing videos of it, and I kind of looked into the pricing and what was involved, and there seemed to be a huge amount of logistics in getting the gear, obviously preparing for it. It's much more different. It's much different to trail running when you have to carry all your gear with you, your cooking utensils, and you need to have your kind of wits about you. So I thought about it a lot then. That was kind of 2020, 2021. And then I just carried on doing a couple of races, and the thought kind of left my mind. But I said I'd always love to do it. And then I saw Damian Brown. I've been following him for a while. He's an adventurer. He brought a team last year, and I was following all the videos. I was following the Instagram, and I said, "Oh, I'd love to do that." And then we got married last year, and before we got married, I saw he put out a link for this year's event, and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, it was pricey, like, but I was like, but I've always wanted to do this, and I know if, say, I had a family in the next couple of years, things would be a lot harder, so this is my opportunity to do it. So I just like, yeah, whatever it costs, I'll just do it. It's a life experience, and it's something like I may never do again. So I said, hands down, I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes to do it. And we got married, and then the week after I started training. So yeah, so it's been a busy 8
Amazingly
months.
supportive wife, obviously.
Oh yeah, unreal, unbelievable. So
And what, like Damian Brown, I actually know him quite well, fully enough, when I was a competitive bodybuilder. We used to train in the same gym. Shout out to the Warehouse Gym in Galway. Great setup. And we were both obviously in a kind of machine mode, let's call it, at the time. So I'd be in the gym, doing my weights and my cardio for 2 hours plus, and Damien be over on the rowing machine for 2-3 hours plus. I would even come back and even I'd pretty much still be on there. And obviously that was leading up to his row from America's Ireland, right? One of very few, if possibly the only Irishman I think I've ever have done it.
Yeah.
What was it like working with his team? Like, what did that do for you? And just being around, or even just being in contact with a person like that who has achieved some incredible things.
Yeah, it's unreal. People like him don't really seem real until you meet them, and then when you meet them, you realize like they're very normal people, like anyone else. They just do incredible things. But the whole experience was unbelievable. So we started with some training weekends. We started training in August, but the first training weekend is in November. So all the training up to that point was building up to that weekend. To a bike session, which are famous among the Ironman group. So we did 12 or so bike sessions. I don't want to give too much away in the program, but building up to this weekend, so you do a bike session on the Friday, and then on Saturday we did a hike. And the intensity they build for that is unreal, because you're so far away from the race, but there's a real intensity to the training and a real pressure that like I've never experienced before. And they're really good at that, like really putting in the work early, that you're not getting to a March and April and trying to catch up on work. Then it's like from the very beginning, there's plenty work to do. So that was amazing. The weekend itself then was unreal. Everything is so organized. Everything has a purpose. There's nothing wasteful, and the detail in everything is unbelievable. So we arrived on the Friday. You literally arrive. We did the session. There's a walkthrough of everything. I think the whole session on the Friday took like 3 hours. And I was after doing like a morning of work. Drove for 4 hours up there. By the time I got there, I was absolutely knackered. And you still have like a full session ahead for the evening. After that session, there was a chat with the guys who did it the previous year. So the whole evening is spent like going into heavy detail of what's going on. The next morning you're up really early to do a full day's weighted hike. So like there's no steps missed. Everything is just covered to a T, and that they're unbelievable. They are my group, Damian and Connor. So yeah, it was so cool to work with them. For anyone who didn't know like how arduous Damian's crossing of the Atlantic was, like it was 112 days, and 100 of those days he was completely on his own, which is ridiculous. So yeah, to be amongst that kind of people is unbelievable.
It's an honor, actually, in some senses, isn't it?
Yeah.
And take us through. So it's a 4-hour drive up from a full day's work. What's going through your head on that 4-hour drive? I'm always intrigued, because I do all my thinking in the car. Actually, if I need to think something out, sometimes I will actually just go and drive aimlessly. I don't know whether it gives me the headspace and listen to a bit of music, or actually sometimes nothing at all. What's going through your head after doing a full day of delivering incredible sessions to all your members, of course, and then that's facing you? What's going through your head during that ride? Or are you just spaced out completely?
No, not spaced out completely. You're worried about what's coming, because you know what's coming. So the bike sessions, the intention of the bike sessions is to put you in a place
suffering.
So yeah,
deep suffering.
You're supposed to go to that place and understand how you deal with that suffering when it comes. So Damian has these methods that we go through in their training, and each session you're learning, but each session is going to be incredibly hard. and that's the point of it. It's supposed to be unbelievably hard, and you're supposed to develop the tools in order to deal with that state that you go into. You're hyperventilating, you're going into a bit of a panic mode, you feel sick, nauseous. They're not nice, and I'm not really dressing it up nicely because they're terrible. But the final session in November in Killary was the last session of the bike erg. So going up, you just kind of feel nauseous because you know what's coming and what to expect, and you know how long it's going to be. We didn't actually know how many reps and sets there were, but knowing that it was going to be more than the previous one, you're like, oh, this is going to be a long evening.
Mm-hmm. That was probably part of it, preparing for the unknown, because God knows what could happen across 250 kilometers in the Sahara, right? I saw there was some intense storms literally blowing down the checkpoints. So I guess the element of that was just preparing for, well, just what's in front of you, just react to it and preparing for that. I think that's a great way to go about it. I think that applies to so much in life as well, because we can't always control, right? Control the controllables is one of my favorite sayings, right? You can control what you control, but the elements, the other people around us, we can't. So take us then to the morning of, right? You're flown out there. I was following the whole journey on your socials. What's going through your head, like waking up that morning in the Sahara Desert in a tent with how many other lads? What's going through your head? Are you nervous? Are you excited? Is it the fact that you did such a good preparation with the Ironman guys that you were comfortable and you were just okay with knowing that, look, whatever happens, happens, but I'm just going to get out there and put one foot in front of the other? What's going through your head that morning?
Yeah, like there's a bit of rawness to it, like, because you go out there with all your gear, and I brought you bring, for the first night, you're allowed to bring all your clothes that you have for after the MDS, plus the gear that you're bringing with you. So I brought way too much stuff firstly, and I was like, what am I doing with all this going out clothes? I'm like, we're not going to be going out at all after this. Like, we're going to be absolutely knackered. So that was the first thought. I was like, what am I doing here? And then you arrive and it's quite raw. Like, the tent, or the bivouac is what they're called, is it's covered on top, but it's open on both sides. And I remember walking up to the bivouac, and there was 3 Irish guys there already. They weren't part of the Iron Mine crew. And then there was 5 of us joining them. And like, the space is so tight. You're thinking, where am I going to put my stuff? And like, we're going to be stuck to each other for 8 days. But very quickly you get to know each other because you're on top of each other. Literally, you're literally on top of each other. It's like a yoga class where you're stuffed in together. But like, the lads were sound, and that made the whole intro very much easier. But I suppose day one, the main thought I had was like, God, I've way too much stuff with me. It was hot that day, and they were saying it's not that hot compared to previous years. But I love hearing that stuff. Is like, yeah, but I'm Irish. Like, I'm not used to this weather anymore.
What's hot, out of interest? Like 20?
Like 40 plus. I think in 2021 they had 50 plus degrees.
Wow. Okay.
Which is crazy. Like, I think it got to late 30s this year, and like, for me, that's unbelievably hot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's an Irish summer of the 90s maybe, but we haven't felt one of those in a while.
Yeah. But like, the first 2 nights you're there, so we spend 2 nights before you start running. The first 2 nights you're there, you're just buzzing to get going, because we hadn't trained obviously that week. You're resting, so you start to get these like phantom pains. You're like, where are these pains coming from? You're wanting to get going. You're wanting to kind of run around, which obviously it's conserve energy for the next day when we started on the Sunday. So first 2 days were the worst. You're just lying around, eating a ton of calories, didn't sleep that night at all, or the first 3 nights even. So that part was the hard part, obviously a lot of waiting around.
Sounds like normal life for some people, actually, doesn't it? Eating a lot of calories and not sleeping, all that. Well, you should probably go see Vinny if you're based down in the south, if that's the case. So go on.
No, you're right. So it was a lot of hanging around. I think on Saturday it was like, we lay down for the whole day and I had like 4,000 calories. And that night I just could not sleep. I was wide awake. Got going then the Sunday morning, and after that, you're like, you kind of breathe a sigh of relief. You're like, that was nice. You know, I was comfortable. I was happy there, not comfortable, but got through that. And then once you get through stage 1, you're like, okay, now we're started. And now we know what to do. Whereas when you're waiting around, you do a lot of thinking. You're just like, I brought way too much gear.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have way too much than have way too little. But like the pack on the first couple of days was really heavy. So,
and that first day there, standing on the start line, I don't know if they shoot a gun or what way they do it, but
yeah,
where's the head at?
I can't really remember, but I remember just being like, oh, geez, I can't wait to get going. You know, you're just like so much hanging around, and we did a lot of visualization in our training, which I wouldn't have been not very good at, I suppose, because I wouldn't have practiced it a whole amount previous to our training, but a lot of visualization during our training. And one of the key ones that we always thought about was like, you're standing on the start line, think about that, and that's how you get through your training. Like, what are you going to feel like? All this training is going to get you to this point. So that's kind of what promoted the hard work all along. So it was kind of everything I expected it to be. There's a guy that stands up on the stage and sings Highway to Hell, and it's like 6 a.m. You're just woken up and you just want to get going. It was actually a great buzz, and the two guys, Ian Corliss and Cyril owns the business, MDS, and Ian works for the MDS. So Cyril is speaking in French. He's really like passionate French guy. He is giving all the motivational speech, and so is Ian, and it's actually really good. You get really hyped up about it, and then obviously our coach Connor was over with us as well, so you kind of get a pep talk off Connor just to get you going, and you'd run through a brick wall for that man. So it was class. You just
Paul O'Connell style, put the fear of God in them.
Oh yeah, big time. You'd meet him along the way on the journey, and he'll give you a nice pep in your step. But yeah, the morning of, I was just kind of hyped to get going. There wasn't too much thought in it. Just I'm anxious to get going here. So
it's funny that you say that. I think a lot of top end athletes say that as well, and I can relate. When I was bodybuilding, you know, people often ask like, yeah, what's going through your head at the side of stage? That's why I asked, because I'm super interested. When I was at the side of stage ready to hear my name, there was nothing. It's like the body went into autopilot, because I'd done it so many times. I'd visualized it so many times. I'd gone through the routine so many times. I'd put so much work and effort into this that I knew that this was the best, you know, I could stand there on that stage. And then once the name was called, you know, it was just autopilot. I very rarely remember much actually from being on stage. Maybe afterwards, when I get my medal or trophy or whatever it is and they call your name. But what did that feel like for you as well? Like, you know, crossing that finish line, was it emotional? Was it relieving? Like walking over that finish line after 250 kilometers, right? Like of suffering, of joy. But what's that thought of just crossing that line, or even seeing the finish line in the distance? Like I can't imagine what that feels like.
Yeah, seeing the finish line was a funny one though, because throughout the week, the distance in the desert is like kind of plays with your head a small bit, because a lot of it is, there's a lot of flat spots, and you might see the end, but it might be 4 or 5 kilometers away. So, you know, it's in a straight line. You're like, oh, I know this is way further than I think it is. So I'm not going to get myself hyped up. But I suppose it was a bit of relief to cross the finish line. But like emotion, it was a bit emotional. I think a lot of the emotion was in the long day. After the long day, you're just so spent. And knowing when you get through the long day, you're like, oh, I can definitely get through the next 2 days. So there's a marathon on the 5th day, and then a half marathon on the 6th day. So I think
what's the total combined distance there for people listening, just in case they don't know running terms?
270 kilometers for the 6 days running.
Oh, and what's the long part?
The 100k on the long day. So that's the longest they've ever done it. Because it was the 40th edition, they increased it from 80 to 100. So yeah, that's
their way of celebrating.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
They say it's exciting, but I don't know. Is that the word for it? Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Was there ever a stage where it did cross your mind that I can't do this?
No, not really. Like, considering how much work we put into this, and having spoken to the guys last year about their preparation, one of them actually mentioned, the training is as harder, if not harder, than what you're going to experience out there. And I said it to Damian and Connor after when we spoke last week. I was like, I was never unsure of not crossing the finish line. I knew we'd be able to do it. We had a great team there. Everyone was looking out for each other. It was kind of like a team environment while also being an individual event. Everyone celebrated you crossing the line. And you kind of wanted to finish it for each other as well. You didn't want to let the team down. So, no, there was never a point. Like, there was times when I was absolutely shagged and I knew it was going to take me longer than I had anticipated. But no, that never crossed my mind. I couldn't have went home having not finished it. No way. Not after all that preparation.
That's fair. And you did it for a wonderful cause also, which I think we should mention.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us where that came from?
Yeah, so I throughout my preparation, I wanted to raise some money for someone in need, and around Christmas time, my mom mentioned that her cousin's grandson had a rare form of cancer. He was only 6. He's still undergoing treatment called rhabdomyosarcoma, and he had 18 months of radon therapy, chemotherapy. So just before, a couple of weeks before the MDS, he had to go to Manchester for 7 weeks of treatment. It was very intensive. So like radon therapy during the week, chemotherapy the weekend. And before the MDS, he came back. As soon as he landed back in Ireland, he got an infection. He had to go to the hospital. So that's kind of time he was going through. So I wanted to raise money for Dara and his family, his parents, Vince and Claire. And a local J Club had actually raised money as well. So I said, I'd like to help out. So I set up a fundraiser. And as of this week, I think we've raised like €13,400. So yeah, wow. It was unreal. It's amazing. The support from everyone was unbelievable. My wife does all my social media at the moment now because I'm useless at it. But up to before the MDS, we'd raised 10,000. I was like, that's unbelievable. It was kind of a goal as it started. I was like, geez, it's amazing to raise 10,000. Whatever we raised was unreal. But when I came back, Niamh had been doing all the social media. So because I didn't have a phone for 9 days, and I came back and it was at like 13,000. I couldn't believe it. But she'd been sharing all the videos that I shared with her, and keeping people updated, and that kept a good buzz around the event, and building a bit of momentum on the fundraiser. So yeah, it was amazing. I'm delighted to help the family as well. So
amazing. And can we still? Yeah. Is the link still live? Can people still donate? They can.
Yeah, brilliant. It'll be live now till this weekend. So
perfect. So I'll drop that in the description box below there as well for anyone who'd like to contribute. That's incredible. Massive achievement on all fronts, Vinny. Like, to complete that and to raise money for an incredible young boy is truly amazing. And with business, then we'll jump in there a little bit. Do you feel like this experience, training for this or prepping for this, or even just going through what you did psychologically along the event, do you feel like that will change how you maybe coach people or how you work with people, or are you still yourself and that's just a part of your life and you're going to keep that there, or will it affect how you coach going forward?
I'll become a military operator, as I no. No more nice guy. No, I don't think it'll change. Like, I think I've always tried to be myself, and I think that reflects in how I work and my relationship too. But I suppose when I started Phoenix, what I wanted to push is that there's a lot of short-term approach to fitness. And obviously, if you're to promote fitness as a fitness business, you should be promoting a long-term approach to health, to wellness, to becoming more mentally resilient. Fitness takes years, as you know. Bodybuilding takes years to build a body, takes years to build fitness endurance. So I never liked that approach. I never liked the 6-week challenges. Not to say they're not a good thing, but it just wasn't for me. So that's kind of what I wanted to promote through Phoenix, is a long-term approach. Building strength takes time. This word resilience pops up a lot in everyday life. Resilience is something you build over a lifetime. When people start running, they start with a 5K, they move to a 10K maybe, then they move to a half marathon, and that's kind of like what building resilience, and that's kind of what I want to promote here. Is you start small, you build your way up, you develop a bit of confidence, and that's how you build a strong human, I suppose.
And you seem to conduct a lot of what you do like that, Vinny. I know working with you personally on your business, you have the same attitude. You compound over time, and you improve and you get better, and you improve on certain skills and certain aspects, and you're very open as well about what you maybe don't like about business, or maybe what you're not good at, but your ability and your want to dive in there, I think sets you apart. And I think that makes a good business owner. As I said, doing the burpees in business is doing the hard things, right? But you would imagine someone who could run 200 plus kilometers across the desert, you would find business relatively easy, right? But maybe that's two different challenges. So when it comes to business, is your approach the long-term approach as well? And what are you hoping to achieve along that journey along the way?
I wouldn't say it's the same, no. I find running a lot easier than most things. Not to say I'm the best runner in the world, but and I'm not. But the running for the MDS, the running is like the easy part. Like buying all the gear and all that, like administrative stuff, is what I find most difficult. And the same goes for business. Like when we first started working together, I always wanted to be the coach and just coach, but I forget that this is my business and that I have to look after that too. So my approach long term is to grow something that I'm really proud of, and that means a lot to me, and that's why I started Phoenix. It's the word Phoenix is like a mix of the word Phoenix, PH, into Fina, so FIANNIX, with a bit of a modern spin. So my granddad used to tell us a lot about the Fina and Fionn McCool growing up. So I wanted something that kind of a word that had some meaning to me. And obviously Phoenix is like resilience, strength, rising from the ashes, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I wanted something that kind of had a sense of meaning to me, but also promoted what I'm about, like the long-term approach, becoming your own leader, can I look after myself? Can I look after my nutrition? I now have the tools. Can I really push on? So that's kind of what I wanted to achieve. And long term, I'd like to have a community gym where people come and they want to grow as a person. It's not a short term approach; it's a long term approach. Basically.
And how? Because there's probably a lot of people that are going to listen to this and be like, okay, I'm in a position right now, I've got a corporate job, or maybe they're already working in fitness, but they don't necessarily have their own studio, their own space. How did you find that transition from, I assume you went from a good, steady, secure salary and wage in, the sun and everything is going wonderfully well, following the path as such, to saying, no, goodbye, I'm going back home and I'm going to open my own business. How did you deal with that? Because going from security to unsecure can be, well, scary, right? Hence what's called, insecurities. Yeah. But how did you find that period?
Well, through that period, I didn't know what I was going to do next. So I moved home in June 2021. Didn't plan on going back to college. That hadn't crossed my mind yet. So I came home and I originally planned to take a month off. I think that stopped after about a week. So yeah, I wanted to do something. I wanted to come home and be a bit proactive. So I asked my friend for a job. He owns a landscaping business, so I went landscaping with him, and it was actually kind of really good for my head at the time. Do a bit of physical work, and just keep my mind busy. And I did that for a year and a half. And during that time, in September, I went back to Setanta College studying strength and conditioning. So I'm still doing that, just finishing that out now in the next while. But I went back, started doing strength and conditioning in college, did a couple of months, and then I kind of started training like friends and family just to get a bit of experience. And I found that period very difficult, not because of the workload, but because I suppose I was 29, 30, you're starting a new career, you're trying to start a business as a personal trainer, but it's always been considered a young man's or young woman's game.
Mm-hmm.
So I was quite nervous about that, to be honest. Very conscious of what people would think of it, but up to now, it's just been complete shift. Do you know, you think of it now, you think you'd forget I was even in working in a corporate job before.
Mm-hmm.
So that took a while. That took a few years to change that, to become comfortable in my new role and know that I'm well able to manage a business. So yeah, the first year and a half was difficult. I worked a year and a half in landscaping, and then started 2023. I went full time. Wasn't making a whole pile of money. Wouldn't have called it a business at the time. I was kind of just working week to week, just trying to figure stuff out, and eventually kind of got a handle on things when I joined with SAOR, and it's kind of grown the last year and a half, 2 years ever since. So yeah, not an easy thing to do, and I would never say it was easy. It was a big challenge, but it's definitely worth it if you're really unhappy in your role. It's like you're not going to go anywhere, and I figured that out after a couple of months of trying to push it. You're not going to go anywhere good if you're really unhappy, or maybe it's not a career for you.
That was my exact question. Yeah, to finish it off, Vinny, is there any advice for someone who is looking to change career, in their 30 or early 30s? Because again, like you said, I got into this industry when I was practically 19. I don't really know any other industry, and I still love it, and I always will. But yeah, if you're in your 30s right now and you're in a job that you're not happy, what do you do? How do you change that?
A lot of the people that I met throughout the last couple of years in like a couple of different courses are like 40s, 50s. They might be doing it on the side for a while until they figure out how they can make it a full-time gig. And like, if you are changing career, it's not a case of going from whatever 40 grand straight to 40 grand. It's not how it works, unfortunately. But yeah, there is an adjustment period, and maybe with having kids and stuff, it must be a lot more difficult. But it's probably working something part-time and saying, can I make this a full-time gig? Can I make this something that is secure, and I can make a living of? And when you figure that out, and when you learn how to make money, and you start to love your job, it makes things so much easier. Like dreading going to work is I think the worst feeling ever. Like dreading going to your job every day, and it can really impact the rest of your life, your relationships, yeah, even how much fitness you do and stuff like that. And yeah, it affects a lot of things that maybe you don't see. But I definitely give it a crack if I was someone who was stuck in an office and didn't like it.
I love that attitude. Just go for it. It's funny that you have the same attitude towards running 200 plus kilometers across the desert. It's like, well, what's the worst could happen? And that's literally what's the worst could happen. You don't finish, you fail. Well, you get up and you try again. You dust yourself off. And I think a lot of people are afraid of that, to fail, because failure can be so public now. Because if you're sharing your life and your journey across social media, that fear of, just, the world's knowing I'm failing, I think scares a lot of people from doing things that they're afraid of, like getting into business or leaving that job and starting their passion, whether that's in fitness or, you know, woodworking, you know, whatever it is. But I think it's important to try, because the last thing that I know for me personally, the last thing I want to do is get into my latter years and say, well, I wish I tried that, you know. So look, Vinny, thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really enjoyed hearing your mission, what you have achieved so far, and no doubt what you're going to achieve in the future is going to be incredible. Maybe we'll put that energy that you put into MDS into your business now as well, which I'm excited for. You are an incredible business owner. You're a great guy. And anything else that you want to say to people out there?
No, I just want to say for everyone who supported the fundraiser and shared and liked and followed the journey, thank you so much. I didn't have the social media for 9 or 10 days, and I came back to loads of messages from people who I wouldn't really know that well. So it was cool. It was like a nice thing to have, that you kind of inspire people to do certain things, and yeah, that was a nice thing. So yeah, thanks. Just say thanks to everyone really for all the support.
Thanks, Vinny.
And thank you. Cheers, man.